It was January 29, 2014, when a few of us, her friends, received an email from her informing us that she had been diagnosed with gastric cancer. The tone of her email was very structured and businesslike. She said she was taking this on like a project and needed our prayers. And so the roller coaster ride began for all of us who journeyed with her while we were transformed by her in unimaginable ways. For the next 2 years, she went on 5 rounds of chemo, 1 round of radiotherapy to try and keep this thing. In 2 years, she came home once, and I was fortunate enough to have visited her in New York 3 times with my family in an attempt to give her some moral support. She's also my mom. I think my mom loves her more than my mom loves me. It's okay, it's okay. I hold no grudge. Fast forward to early morning of January 15, 2016. When I got a call from her saying that she had decided to come home after Sloan's had conveyed to her that they had done everything and that there was nothing more they could do. She asked Ronald, my husband, an oncologist, to take care of communicating with Sloan's Kettering to ensure the smooth transfer of medical files from Sloan's to the medical city. Ronald, being privy to her latest CT scan and to all the past CT scans, knew that there was already fluid in her lungs, and so the window of opportunity for her to get on a plane and fly out was getting discovered. We had 1 week. After a tidal wave of emails between Ronald and Sloan's Kettering Hospital, Lumi, Air Care One, the company that the family hired to facilitate Tintin's airlift, and PAL, and the endless WhatsApp messages between me, Louie, and Trisha, we got the clearance for her flight on the hour of the deadline. And so she was able to fly out of New York the very next day, in time to escape the big snowstorm. She went from Sloan's Kettering in an ambulance to JFK, got on a PAL flight on a stretcher, landed in Manila, was carried to the waiting ambulance at the tarmac, and then transported directly to the medical city. She arrived January 23, 2016, on the 40th day from the time of Tito Ellen's death. On the ride from Medical City, the ambulance went slow because she was in enormous pain. And every pothole on EDSA only intensified that pain. When she got to her room and was lying on her bed, she was moaning. Her nurse from New York, who traveled with her, said to us that she has never given that much morphine to anyone, and yet Christine was still in pain. It was difficult to witness. Thankfully, 24 hours later, her body had settled down, and she said the pain had gone from 9, 10 being the highest, to 3 or 4. My husband, Ronald, who then asked to take on her case, assembled a team of doctors to care for her. She had a palliative doctor, a pain management doctor, a rehab doctor, a pulmo, cardio, gastro-oncologist, and a medical nutritionist, whose collective goal was to keep her as pain-free as possible and to improve quality of life. I want to thank Ronald, my husband, for heading this team and taking very special care of him. I was teasing him Now I know why I married you. You were meant to take care of my best friend. And then he passed. Ron would often tease me in front of Tintin, saying, "She says I love you more to you than she does to me."
What?
So to Ron,
You're with me.
to Ron, I love you. And you know that. I'm saying it at you, ah. And then, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all the love and care you provided our dearest friend. Now let me share with you private moments with Tin that will sort of tell you the nature of our friendship and the strength of her character as she fought. When she arrived in Naiya and I saw her in the ambulance, I was so happy to see her. I was saying, "I love you, Tin, I love you, welcome home." Her reply, "Shocks, can you please be quiet?" She calls me Shocks because I'm Shuboko. Shocks is my... In Arbor College, she's the only one who calls me Shocks. She's really not the senti type, at least not at this stage. She just wanted some silence and to focus on getting ready. The next day, Ron was explaining to her what was going to be done, the approach that was going to be taken, and I just made a side comment. And she turns to me and says, "Huwag ka nang makialam." Good sign, because still masugit. I saw her every single day since January 23, except for the 3 days when Ronald banned me from the ICU. But that's another story between husband and wife. And she told me, Tin told me when she was still in the regular room, "You're the only one who hasn't given me a bath. You just sit there and watch. Wala ka namang ginagawa." So I said to her, "But I'm the chief resident. I don't do sponge baths." And she just shook her head out of frustration. That's how we show our love. In one of our bickering, I teased her and said, "Ludette Andaya told me that you talk to me that way because you love me the most." And she looked at me and just rolled her eyes and shrugged her shoulders. So I'll take that as a yes. No offense to our Bernardo. Wednesday, February 3, was the night she was intubated and moved to the ICU. That night, her oxygen level was going down and her heart rate was going up. If prolonged, she was at risk of going into heart failure, and so they had to intubate to help her breathe. When she was told, she immediately opened her eyes, asked for Ronald, and said no to intubation. I signed a DNR. And Ron calmly explained to her that this is not a DNR. You are not flatlining. We are not reviving you, but we will help you breathe better. I will have you mildly sedated so you don't feel anything as we intubate. So she agreed and said, "Scrap the DNR, I want to live." And then she looked at me, seeing I was about to cry, pointed her finger and said, "We're going to live." I was trying so hard not to cry because she hates it when you cry. I couldn't speak and just held up the "I love you" sign, and which annoyed her, and she says to me, "What's that? Hindi ko naintindihan yan." That was the last time I heard her voice. Louie, Ron, and I were there. That was the last time she spoke. Last first Friday, Feb 5, Tin had her first pigtail procedure that was meant to drain the fluid in her lungs. In her ICU room, Ronald explained to Tintin the procedure and the risks and complications that may or may not occur because of it, and asked her if she wanted to proceed. And Tintin nodded. Then Ronald asked her, Tin, do you still have the fight with you? And she nodded vigorously. So Ronald said, then we will fight with you and for you. February 13, Saturday, Ron went to see Tintin and asked her about the lumps in her breasts as reported by Nurse Tricia. So Ron entered the ICU room. Tintin was intubated. And Ronald enters and says, so I heard there's something going on in your breast. And then immediately Tintin says, and Ronald said, what, don't touch? And Tintin said, don't touch your breast. So, and Ronald said, okay, I won't touch you. And then Tintin got Ronald's hand and put it near her heart. And they were holding hands for like 10 minutes. And Ronald narrated to her that he was outside the Pulang because I was banned from the ICU. And Tintin laughed and giggled. So I'm saying that should have been my hand, not yours. But it's okay. By Tuesday night, February 16, Christine had slipped into a coma. Her BP was low, yet her heart rate was high. Ronald said she's still fighting. She fought all the way until the very end. Until she expired at 7:45 Thursday, February 18. Tintin, I couldn't be prouder of you. I am so proud of how hard and how well you fought. You showed all of us how brave you are and how much courage you possess. This morning, the St. Marie Eugenie quote was, discouragement, sadness, and cowardice cannot be found in souls who give all to God and expect all from Him. This was Tintin from beginning to end. While she accepted whatever God had in store for her, she gave it all she had and fought with all her might. She wanted to live so bad. She showed and taught us the value and sanctity of life. At the peak of her suffering, she had a fracture in her spine, a fracture on her right arm, and a fracture on her right leg, compounded with the tumors pressing on her bones. It was a double whammy, not to mention the fluids that filled up her lungs, and the piercing of both the sides of her body to drain the fluid. She was Jesus crucified. While I do not question, I will never understand why she had to undergo much suffering. Then again, our faith teaches us. We have been told that it is in suffering that we are closest to God. While we prayed for a miracle, it became clear to me that either way, she would win. If she got her miracle, then she's able to show all of us how powerful our God is. Or if she went, then she goes to God. Now she is with Jesus, and she has won. It is us who continue in the suffering with broken hearts as we try and fill the void that only she can fill. She is one of a kind, irreplaceable, and will be greatly missed. I pass Medical City and I can't even look at the building. Lately, I've been going through our daily WhatsApp messages. In fact, the other day, when Tita Tere and I had a funny conversation, my impulse was to go to my phone and text her about it. Then I realized I couldn't do that anymore. That she truly has left us permanently. I dread going to New York in June, knowing that she won't be there. New York will be so empty without her. I realize every day it gets harder. I thought I had cried enough, but the crying seems endless and has become part of my routine. I think even my driver is worried. That said, I can only imagine what it's like for you, Tita, Louie and Trisha. If it helps any, know that we are praying for you, and share in your grief. Then I miss you. Every day I will be thinking of you and praying to you. Visit us in your dreams and tell us what heaven is like. Journey on and be at peace, and thank you for everything.